So if you want to be happy, you need to live in the present moment. I mean, we hear it constantly, right?
Oh, absolutely everywhere. Therapists, yoga instructors, every wellness blog on the internet.
Exactly. It's always focus on your breath, focus on the feeling of your feet on the ground, be here now. But what if the here and now is actually, well, a massive psychological trap?
Right, which goes against basically everything we're taught.
Totally. So today's deep dive explores a really radical 2018 essay, and it argues that living in the moment is actually the absolute worst thing you can do for your brain.
Yeah, and it goes even further, claiming that actively escaping into a fictional future is the ultimate survival tool.
It's wild. So the text we're looking at is by an author named Shifeng, and it's titled Transcending Space and Time, Living in the Future.
And it completely dismantles that modern golden rule of mindfulness. Like, instead of anchoring yourself to your physical surroundings,
Mhm.
feeling the warmth of your coffee cup to find peace, this framework suggests that doing that just locks you into a really limited, painful state of human cognition.
I really want to set the baseline for our conversation today because this is out there. We're diving into this with a totally curious, open-minded vibe.
Definitely. We aren't endorsing this as the absolute, undisputed truth of the universe.
We're not saying this is the only way to live, but we are unpacking it because it throws this massive wrench into our everyday assumptions. Assumptions about reality, time, and honestly, where our happiness actually comes from.
Yeah, and to really get there, we have to start at the author's absolute foundational definition of what a human being even is.
Okay, let's get into it. What is a human, according to this text?
Well, the text builds its entire argument on one really specific premise. It says a human being is essentially a life form defined by an antimatter structure that's infused with spirituality.
Okay, hang on. Antimatter structure? Stop right there. That sounds like we just took a hard left turn into, like, quantum physics.
It does sound like a sci-fi novel, yeah.
Right. Are we talking about literal particle physics here, like laboratories and colliders?
No, not in the literal laboratory sense. You have to think of it as a profound metaphor. So in physics, antimatter is the unseen counterpart to physical matter.
Okay, I follow that.
So the author is using this term to describe the non-physical, intangible essence of what makes us alive. Your physical body, your bones, your cells, that's the matter.
Right, the meat suit.
Exactly, the meat suit. But your consciousness, your mind, your soul, that is the antimatter structure. And the absolute core of the structure, the most important part, is pure consciousness.
Okay, so it's a way to really emphasize that the most real part of us isn't our physical biology at all, but our perception.
Yes. And because consciousness is the true core, the text makes this massive foundational claim. It says that for consciousness itself, there is absolutely no difference between reality and illusion.
Wait, no difference at all.
None. The distinction simply does not exist for your consciousness.
I have to admit, that sounds a bit absurd at first glance. I mean, obviously, there's a difference between me sitting in this chair right now and me imagining I'm a billionaire on a yacht.
Well, to your physical body, sure, obviously. But the text argues that concepts like reality versus illusion or time and space, past versus future, these are just stubborn, entrenched problems in human cognition.
Like glitches in our hardware.
Basically, yeah, they're the limits of our biological hardware, but to the pure consciousness, those boundaries just aren't real.
That's a lot to wrap your head around.
It is, but the essay points out that, from the perspective of sheer perception, dreaming is exactly the same as waking reality. Playing a highly immersive video game is the exact same as participating in a physical event.
Wow.
Yeah, it even says a face-to-face chat is indistinguishable from a vivid conversation you have in a dream.
Let me bring in an analogy to see if I'm tracking the biology of this because I want to make sure I get it. It's like putting on a really high-end virtual reality headset.
Oh, that's a great way to look at it.
Right, so you strap it on, and suddenly this highly realistic digital monster jumps right at your face. Even though you are sitting safely in your living room, your heart rate instantly spikes.
Your palms get sweaty.
Exactly. Your amygdala fires, your adrenal glands dump adrenaline into your bloodstream, and your fight or flight response kicks in exactly like it would if a real bear charged you in the woods.
And your biological system does not care that the monster is just a collection of pixels?
Right. The terror is entirely real. The physiological cascade is real. My brain is responding to the perception, completely bypassing the truth of the physical room I'm sitting in.
That VR analogy captures the exact biological mechanic the author is talking about. The text explicitly states that the essence of life is simply perception and experience.
Perception and experience, nothing else.
Right. Without those two things, life doesn't exist. So if your brain and body process an imagined scenario like your VR monster, or a vivid nightmare, or just a really stressful daydream with the same emotional and physiological weight as physical reality, then the boundary between what is real and what is imagined effectively dissolves.
So my internal world carries the exact same weight as the external world.
Precisely.
Man, think about how this applies to everyday life for you and me. Like, if your consciousness is the core of your existence and it genuinely can't tell the difference between a real argument with your boss and a fake shower argument you just made up in your head.
Oh, we all have those shower arguments.
We do.
Yeah.
But you are experiencing that anger and stress as 100% real either way. You're flooding your body with stress hormones for a fake fight.
And that biological reality right there leads to the central conflict of the entire essay. If our brains treat the imagined world and the physical world equally, why is modern society so incredibly obsessed with forcing us to anchor our minds in the physical here and now?
That is the million-dollar question. I mean, if my imaginary realm is just as valid a place for my consciousness to hang out, why is everyone telling me to put down my phone, stop daydreaming, and stare at a wall to be mindful?
Well, the author delivers a highly controversial critique of that exact mindfulness movement. They argue that the inability to transcend reality in space-time is a profound cognitive limitation.
A limitation, not a virtue.
Right. We are physically and mentally trapped in a four-dimensional space-time construct.
We are stuck in the 4D box.
We are stuck. And the popular idea of living in the present, which, society tells us is the peak of enlightenment and peace, is viewed completely differently in this essay.
How so?
The text explicitly calls living in the present a typical example of being restricted by the shackles of reality and time. It is not the cognition of a higher-level life form.
Wow.
It's practically a symptom of being mentally imprisoned.
Wait, I need to push back here. Because standard psychology says anxiety comes from dwelling on the past, like regretting a mistake you made, or stressing about the future, like dreading an upcoming presentation.
Sure, that's the standard model.
Right. And the present moment is pitched as the safe harbor. You focus on the feeling of your feet on the floor to escape the anxiety of what might happen tomorrow. So how can this text argue that the present is the worst place to be?
Because the author looks at what the present actually consists of for the vast majority of human beings. They outline this brutally relatable list of why the present is terrible, and it's not theoretical at all. It's extremely grounded in the daily grind.
Let's hear it.
The text points out that the present is entirely consumed by the sheer exhausting logistics of just staying alive. You have to constantly worry about food, clothing, shelter, aging, and sickness.
The raw survival mechanics.
Exactly. But beyond just basic survival, the source lists all this modern minutia that makes the present unbearable. Electricity bills,
Right.
water bills, internet fees,
Yes.
gas, transportation costs, rent, property taxes.
It's just a relentless, never-ending cascade of invoices.
Add to that the social drain. The annoying, obligatory social interactions and etiquette we have to maintain just to function in society.
Small talk at the grocery store.
Yes. And on top of everything, there is the constant underlying fear for personal safety, unpredictable natural disasters, or what the text refers to as karma-induced accidents.
Karma-induced accidents.
Oh.
That's an interesting phrase.
It is, and when you compile all of that, the text concludes that living in the present is actually the most troublesome and painful state of being imaginable.
Okay, but I have a major problem with this practically.
Let's hear it.
If I decide the present is a miserable trap, right, and I start pretending I'm on a 1,000-year fairy island to escape it, well, I'm going to ignore my water bill. My water is going to get shut off. I'm going to get evicted. Doesn't this philosophy just encourage a really dangerous, delusional escapism that makes your actual present life infinitely worse?
That is the natural counter-argument, and it makes sense. But the text is making a really vital distinction here between physical action and conscious residence.
Conscious residence.
Yeah, where your mind lives. The author isn't saying you stop paying your bills or stop moving your body through the 4D world. They're saying your consciousness shouldn't live there.
Okay, I think I see.
You still wash the dishes and pay the rent, but you do it with the detachment of someone playing a video game. You don't let the water bill occupy your antimatter structure.
So my body is doing the chores, but my mind has checked out and relocated to a better neighborhood.
Exactly.
I'm not ignoring the physical reality. I'm just refusing to let it be my primary source of perception and experience.
That is the critical distinction. You are completely divorcing your inner emotional state from your external physical circumstances.
Okay, that makes more sense. And if we pull back and look at the macro level, the text takes this mundane misery, the bills, the chores, the daily stress, and scales it up to explain some incredibly dark, devastating consequences of being permanently trapped in the now.
Yes, the author makes a very poignant observation about the global scale of human suffering here. Globally, millions of people commit or attempt suicide every year, and hundreds of millions more consider it.
It's a staggering reality.
It is, and the essay asks a fundamental question: why do they do it? The text's answer is deeply tied to this exact concept of time. They do it because the present is too bitter, and crucially, they cannot see a turning point. They cannot see a beautiful future.
They are completely walled in by the pain of the present moment. There's no escape hatch in their mind, so the 40 box just crushes them.
That's beautifully
Ah.
put. The tragedy of the person who takes their own life, according to this essay, is the tragedy of being a living in the present practitioner who is overwhelmed by the agony of that present.
That is a really heavy thought.
It is, and to illustrate this, the author introduces a really powerful thought experiment.
This is the part that really crystallized the whole philosophy for me. Walk us through it.
So imagine a person who is in the deepest pits of despair, entirely trapped in a bitter present, ready to end it all. Now imagine if that person suddenly knew, with absolute unshakable certainty, that they were going to receive $1 million tomorrow.
Or, they knew a powerful benefactor was coming to rescue them.
Right, or even just knowing that their bad luck would reverse and in a few years they would be massively successful.
The text also adds the scenario of knowing for certain that their future held a beautiful life in a boundless heavenly kingdom, doesn't it?
It does, yes. Any scenario where a beautiful future is absolutely guaranteed. So if you injected that knowledge into their mind, would they still end their life today?
The author's answer is a resounding no. Not only would they not end their life, but they would suddenly live today, this exact same present day, with the exact same terrible physical circumstances, happily and joyfully.
Think about the mechanics of that for a second. Their physical reality hasn't changed one single bit.
Not at all. They don't have the $1 million in their hand yet. The eviction notice is still on the door. Their body is sitting in the exact same bitter present. So what actually shifted?
Their perception relocated. By introducing the certainty of a beautiful future, their consciousness has traveled forward in time. This thought experiment synthesizes the core message of the text. Hope is not just a fleeting, nice emotion. It is a powerful, active force that fundamentally alters the biological and psychological experience of the present moment.
So forcing your consciousness to live in the future is a far superior strategy for making life beautiful than staying trapped in the painful present.
Absolutely.
It's essentially a massive, deliberate biohack for your brain chemistry. If your consciousness is hyper-focused on the $1 million coming tomorrow, your brain starts releasing dopamine and serotonin today.
Right, the reward chemicals are firing right now.
And the pain of the current moment gets downregulated. It just becomes background noise.
It fundamentally rewrites how the body experiences the current hour. But mathematically, how do we actually execute this in daily life? Because let's be real, you don't know for sure that you are getting $1 million tomorrow.
Exactly. If I'm stressed about my rent today, I can't just snap my fingers and forcefully pretend I'm rich. My brain will call my bluff.
How does the author suggest we engineer this shift? Where are we supposed to go in our minds? Well, the text moves from philosophy into very specific application here. The author provides highly detailed utopian destinations that you are supposed to actively visualize.
So it isn't just vague optimism.
No, not at all. It's not just telling yourself, oh, things will get better. The text suggests you must imagine yourself living in specific conceptual spaces, like the life oasis created by Life Zen.
Which sounds like an incredibly tranquil, insulated community.
It does. It also encourages projecting your consciousness into grander, almost mythic realms. It mentions imagining living in the 1,000-year world, the 10,000-year world, or what is translated as the Elysium Fairy Island Archipelago.
The Elysium Fairy Island Archipelago. Okay, I love the imagery, but let's break down why visualizing a fairy island actually works. Because on the surface, it sounds a bit like sticking your fingers in your ears and humming loudly.
Sure, it sounds a bit silly at first.
Right. So how does this literal visualization change my day-to-day stress?
The text introduces a key concept it calls mental imagery. It is the practice of thinking through deeply held, vivid images in the mind. When you do this intense, specific visualization, when you really map out the details of that fairy island in your head, the sounds, the sights, the peace, you are hijacking that VR mechanism we talked about earlier.
We are back to the VR headset.
Exactly. You are feeding your brain highly detailed sensory data of a safe, beautiful environment.
And because my brain can't tell the difference between physical reality and a vivid illusion, it starts downregulating my nervous system.
Yep. Your heart rate drops, your cortisol levels fall.
Even though I'm sitting in a messy apartment with a stack of bills on the table, my body starts reacting as if I'm relaxing on an island.
Yes. And the psychological effect of this is profound. The text points out that by doing this, your current suffering, all your daily fears and anxieties, they begin to fade into illusions themselves.
They lose their power.
They lose their grip on your antimatter structure entirely. The author specifically notes that life actually starts to feel like playing a game.
The gamification of reality. That's brilliant. When your true reality, the one your consciousness actually cares about, is situated in a future utopia, the present just becomes a temporary, mildly annoying level you have to play through to get to the save point.
That is a perfect way to phrase it. It is an incredibly potent coping mechanism. And the text claims this mechanism is so powerful that even the ultimate human fear, the arrival of death, becomes something you can face without terror.
Really? Death itself?
Yes. In fact, the author says you might even gladly accept it.
Wow. Well, I guess because if your consciousness is already living in the 1,000-year world, death isn't an end. It's just the loading screen between the physical world and the mental utopia you've already built.
Exactly. It becomes a transition point, nothing more. It is a more efficient, mathematically superior use of your perception than choosing to endure a bitter present.
Mathematically superior. I like that.
The text argues that the quality and realm of your life are entirely decided by what you choose to perceive. So the author basically asks, why on earth would you force your consciousness to experience a miserable present? If the brain doesn't know the difference, feed it the beautiful illusion. That illusion becomes the essence of your life.
Man. So we have just completely dismantled the modern wellness mantra of living in the moment.
We really have.
We started with the biological reality that our brains genuinely cannot differentiate between physical threats and vividly imagined ones, just like our VR monster.
Right.
We explored how the constant stream of modern survival, the bills, the chores, the 4D space-time trap, makes the present moment incredibly hostile. And how being locked in that present without hope is the root of profound human despair.
The thought experiment with the $1 million really highlighted that.
It totally did. But the ultimate takeaway isn't nihilism at all. It's radical empowerment. By using vivid, detailed mental imagery, like an Elysium fairy island, we can deliberately gamify our own reality. We downregulate our stress and build a future that our consciousness can happily live in right now.
And you really have to think about how this applies to your everyday life. Whether or not you buy into a literal 1,000-year world, the functional mechanics of this philosophy are undeniable.
Absolutely undeniable.
The quality of your life is entirely dependent on what you feed your consciousness. You hold the remote control to your own perception. You can choose to tune into the anxiety of the present, or you can tune into the sanctuary of the future.
It completely reframes how we think about the power of the mind. And it actually leaves me with one final lingering question to chew on.
What's that?
Well, we know the brain treats perceived experiences as real, triggering physical reactions like a racing heart or a drop in cortisol.
Yep.
If our consciousness truly processes a vividly imagined future with the exact same biological and physiological weight as our current physical reality, then are our daydreams actually a valid biological form of time travel?